President Macron strongly condemns Russia's illegal referendums in a phone call with Zelensky. French President Emmanuel Macron condemned Russia's illegal referendums on a phone call with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky Sunday. The head of the Ukrainian state thanked the President of France for his strong condemnation of the illegal referendums in Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhzhia, and Kherson regions and Russia's attempts to illegally annex these territories of Ukraine, Zelensky's office reported on Sunday. The presidents agreed on the need for a tough consolidated response by the world community to this latest crime by the Russian Federation, in particular via boosting sanctions pressure. Zelensky emphasized the importance of enhancing defense support for Ukraine and discussed the situation around the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant, emphasizing the need for its immediate demilitarization. The presidents also called for the release of Ihor Murashov, the Director General of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, who was detained by a Russian patrol on Saturday. U.S. National Security Advisor met with Turkish official and spoke on Ukraine war and prisoner release efforts. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan met with Dr. Ibrahim Kalin, the spokesperson and chief advisor to Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, in Istanbul Sunday, National Security Council spokesperson Adrienne Watson said. They discussed their continued support for Ukraine in the face of Russia's aggression, including their condemnation of Russia's attempted illegal annexation of Ukrainian territory, Watson said, adding that Sullivan thanked Turkey for efforts toward food security. Sullivan also thanked Turkey for its diplomatic work to secure the release of Ukrainian prisoners of war, as well as 2 American citizens held by Russia, referring to Paul Whelan and Brittany Griner. Presidents of 9 NATO countries support Ukraine's membership and call for increased military assistance. The presidents of 9 NATO countries from Central and Eastern Europe issued a joint statement on Sunday, condemning Russia's annexation of Ukrainian territories and calling on NATO to significantly increase military assistance to Ukraine. The statement notes that the leaders of these countries visited Kiev during the war and witnessed with their own eyes the effects of Russian aggression. We reiterate our support for the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine. We do not recognize and will never recognize Russian attempts to annex any Ukrainian territory, the statement said. The presidents of the Czech Republic, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, North Macedonia, Montenegro, Poland, Slovakia, and Romania expressed their firm support for the decision of the 2008 Bucharest NATO summit regarding the future membership of Ukraine in the alliance. We support Ukraine in its defense against Russia's invasion, demand Russia to immediately withdraw from all the occupied territories, and encourage all allies to substantially increase their military aid to Ukraine, the statement continued. The statement also called on all those who commit crimes of aggression to be held accountable and brought to justice. Putin submits draft legislation on the annexation of Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, and Zaporizhzhia regions. Russian President Vladimir Putin has submitted treaties on the annexation of Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, and Zaporizhzhia regions to the State Duma. The document was published in the Duma electronic database on Sunday. Putin also submitted bills on the accession of these regions, Russian state media TASS reported on Sunday, citing the press service of the State Duma Committee on State Construction and Legislation. 4 draft federal constitutional laws on the entry of the Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics, Zaporizhzhia, and Kherson regions into the Russian Federation have been submitted to the State Duma by the President of the Russian Federation, the press release said, as quoted by TASS. According to TASS, the head of the committee, Pavel Krasheninnikov, whose words are quoted by the press service, said the State Duma will consider the bills on Monday, October 3, and the Federation Council is scheduled to hold a meeting the next day. The State Duma and Federation Council are Russia's 2 houses of parliament. They are due to formally meet this week to discuss the annexation. TASS reported that Krasheninnikov said that authorities in the annexed regions will be formed by June 1, 2023. The Russian ruble will become the only monetary unit, and that until then the Ukrainian hryvnia will be allowed to circulate there. The armed forces of those regions are proposed to be included in the Russian armed forces. Decision on Ukraine's NATO application must be agreed to by all member countries, organization head says. A decision about Ukraine's application for accelerated NATO membership must be agreed upon by all NATO allies, Jens Stoltenberg, NATO Secretary General, said Sunday. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky announced Friday that Ukraine was applying under an accelerated procedure to become a member of the Security Alliance. NATO has an open-door policy, and every nation, including, of course, also Ukraine, has the right to choose its own path, including what kind of security arrangements it wants to be part of, Stoltenberg said when asked about Ukraine's application in an interview on NBC's Meet the Press. But he added, at the same time, any decision on membership has to be taken by consensus. All 30 allies have to agree. The Secretary General went on to affirm that the top priority among NATO allies was to support Ukraine. Liberation of Lyman shows Ukrainians are making progress in war with Russia, NATO chief says. The liberation of the city of Lyman in eastern Ukraine shows Ukrainians are making progress, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said Sunday. This gain by Ukraine demonstrates that the Ukrainians are making progress, are able to push back the Russian forces, Stoltenberg told NBC's Meet the Press in an interview. His comments follow the retreat of the Russian forces from the eastern Ukrainian city of Lyman, which marks Ukraine's most significant gain since its successful counteroffensive in the northeastern Kharkiv region last month. Stoltenberg added this was a result of their courage, because of their bravery, their skills, but also because of the advanced weapons that the United States and other allies are providing. Russian state media Russia 24 reported Saturday that the reason for Russia's withdrawal was because the enemy used both Western-made artillery and intelligence from North Atlantic alliance countries. It is possible to restore Nord Stream pipelines, Russian official says. There are technical possibilities to restore the infrastructure of the Nord Stream pipelines, a Russian official said Sunday. Of course, there are technical possibilities to restore the infrastructure. It takes time and appropriate funds. I am sure that appropriate opportunities will be found, Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak said during an interview on Russian state media Russia 1 TV on Sunday. His comments follow the discovery of 4 leaks in the Nord Stream pipelines earlier this week near the Danish island of Bornholm in the Baltic Sea. Western leaders have called the incident a deliberate act and have vowed a strong response. The cause of the incident is still not confirmed. According to Novak, the countries that took a negative position in relation to the Nord Stream project, the United States, Ukraine, and Poland, are interested in decommissioning the pipelines. Novak said that it is necessary, first of all, to figure out who did this, and we are sure that certain countries that previously expressed their positions are interested in this. On Friday, Russia's President Vladimir Putin claimed Anglo-Saxons were to blame for the explosions that damaged the Nord Stream pipelines. U.S. Senator expresses concern of a possible attack by Russia in NATO territory. Florida GOP Senator Marco Rubio also expressed concern about the possibility of a strike in NATO territory by Russian President Vladimir Putin during an interview Sunday with CNN's Dana Bash. I think it's quite possible that he could end up striking some of these distribution places where the supplies are coming through, including inside Poland. A lot of talk about nuclear, but I think the thing I worry most about is a Russian attack inside NATO territory, for example, aiming at the airport in Poland or some other distribution point, he said. Asked whether NATO would have to respond, he said it would depend on the nature, scale, and scope of an attack. Rubio suggested the risk of a nuclear attack from Putin is higher today than a month ago, but that he is more concerned about intermediate steps Putin could take. Rubio also suggested that Russia was responsible for attacks on the Nord Stream gas pipelines last week. I think it's pretty clear someone did this, and the only people in that region who have both the motive and the capability to have done it are Russia or Russian forces. So I think for me, it's not an intelligence matter at this point. It's a common sense matter, he said. U.S. Defense Secretary say Ukraine is making progress on the battlefield. U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin said he believes Ukraine is making progress in the Kherson region of the country as they continue to counter Russia's invasion, adding there has been a kind of change in the battlefield dynamics. Austin attributed the change to the skill of Ukrainian soldiers and their strategic use of weapons supplied by U.S. and NATO allies, specifically their use of the high-mobility air rocket systems, or HIMARS. He made the comments in an exclusive interview with CNN's Fareed Zakaria that aired Sunday on Fareed Zakaria GPS. What we're seeing now is a kind of change in the battlefield dynamics, Austin said. They've done very, very well in the Kharkiv area and moved to take advantage of opportunities. The fight in the Kherson region's going a bit slower, but they're making progress. Austin said Ukrainian forces have used technology like HIMARS and employed it in the right way to conduct attacks on things like logistical stores and command and control. That's taken away significant capability from the Russians. In doing so, Ukrainians have changed the dynamics, and it's created an opportunity for the Ukrainians to maneuver, he added. When asked why the U.S. has not supplied longer-range weapons that Ukrainians have asked for, Austin said he communicates with his Ukrainian counterpart, Minister of Defense Oleksiy Reznikov, routinely, and believes the U.S. has been very effective in providing them those things that are very, very effective on a battlefield. While the U.S. has provided Ukraine with HIMARS and Guided Multiple Launch Rocket Systems, or GMLRS, to be used with the HIMAR systems, Ukraine has asked for Army Tactical Missile Systems, or ATACMS, which have a longer range than the GLMR systems the U.S. has provided so far. AKCMS have a range of about 185 miles. The maximum range of U.S.-provided weapons to Ukraine is around 49 miles. Austin praised the successes Ukrainians have had on the battlefield and noted they are using the weapons and technology given to them by the U.S. in the right way. It's not just about the equipment that you have. It's about how you employ that equipment, how you synchronize things together to create battlefield effects that then can create opportunities, he said. Austin said what will happen in Ukraine is hard to predict, but he said the U.S. will continue to provide security assistance to the Ukrainians for as long as it takes. The Ukrainians have amazed the world in terms of their ability to fight back, their ability to exercise initiative, their commitment to the defense of their democracy, he said. And that willingness to fight has rallied the international community in an effort to help provide them the security assistance so that they can continue to fight. Ukraine is ready to facilitate the rotation of experts from the UN Nuclear Watchdog Agency at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba said Sunday. Kuleba tweeted that he spoke to the International Atomic Energy Agency Director General Rafael Grossi and stressed Russia must withdraw troops and military equipment from the station. The minister added that Grossi assured that the IAEA spares no effort to ensure the release of the ZNPP director abducted by Russia. Grossi said Saturday that the IAEA received information about the detention of Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant Director General Ihor Murashov, and that it has been in contact with the relevant authorities and has been informed that Mr. Murashov is in temporary detention, according to an IAEA statement. Such a detention of any member of the plant staff would be a source of grave concern in itself, but also for its psychological impact and pressure on the rest of the staff, which is detrimental to nuclear safety and security, Grossi added. The IAEA chief added that his agency has been actively seeking clarifications and hopes for a prompt and satisfactory resolution of this matter. He reiterated that this detention has a very significant impact on at least 2 of the 7 indispensable nuclear safety and security pillars that he outlined at the beginning of the conflict in Ukraine, the IAEA said. Zaporizhzhia, the largest nuclear complex of its kind in Europe, was seized by Russian forces at the start of the war. The plant and the area around it, including the nearby city of Enerhodar, have endured persistent shelling that has raised fears of a nuclear accident through the interruption of the power supply to the plant. Russia and Ukraine have accused each other of acts of nuclear terrorism. Kuleba tweeted the following: I spoke to Rafael and Grossi to inform him Ukraine is ready to facilitate rotation of IAEA experts at the ZNPP. I stressed Russia must withdraw troops and military equipment from the station. He'd assured IAEA spares no effort to ensure the release of ZNPP director abducted by Russia. Russian officials have criticized Russia's military leadership following the retreat of Russian forces from the strategic eastern city of Lyman in the Donetsk region. Russian lawmaker and former army commander Andrei Gurulev said he could not explain this surrender from a military point of view, speaking on air on Soloviev Live, a pro-Kremlin channel, on Saturday. It is not clear to me why they didn't correctly assess the situation at that time, didn't strengthen the group of troops, Russian State Duma deputy and former commander of the 58th Army, Lieutenant General Andrei Gurulev said. This is probably a significant milestone, not only military but also political, especially now, he also said, adding that the problem is the general lies, the report of a good situation. This system goes from top to bottom. His comments follow the Russian Defense Ministry saying Saturday that Russian forces had retreated from Lyman, a city which Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Sunday has been completely liberated. Russian state media Russia 24 reported Saturday that the reason for Russia's withdrawal was because the enemy used both Western-made artillery and intelligence from North Atlantic alliance countries. On Saturday, the leader of Chechnya, Ramzan Kadyrov, also criticized the withdrawal. He wrote on Telegram that the troops were not provided with the necessary communication, interaction, and the supply of ammunition, and blamed the commander of the Central Military District, Alexander Lipin, accusing him of moving his headquarters to Starobilsk, 100 kilometers away from his subordinates, and that he was holed up in Luhansk. It's not a shame that Lipin is mediocre, but the fact that he is covered at the top by the leaders in the general staff, said Kadyrov in his post on Saturday, adding that there is no place for nepotism in the army, especially in difficult times. The Ukrainian capture of the city of Lyman is significant, and the U.S. is very encouraged by what it's seeing from the Ukrainian military right now, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said Saturday. Russian forces retreated from Lyman, a strategic city for its operations in the east, the Russian Defense Ministry said Saturday, just a day after Moscow's annexation of the region that's been declared illegal by the West. Lyman sits astride the supply lines of the Russians, and they use those routes to push men and material down to the south and to the west. And without those routes, it will be more difficult. So this presents a sort of a dilemma for the Russians going forward. Austin told reporters during a news conference at the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command in Honolulu, Hawaii. But Ukrainian progress on the battlefield has led to concern about a potential escalation in the war, including the potential use of nuclear weapons. What it means in terms of potential escalation, I won't speculate on that, Austin said. But what it does mean for the battlefield is that the Ukrainians continue to make progress, and they continue to present problems to the Russians that they'll have to resolve. And again, we all have to be encouraged by what we're seeing, he said. Austin told CNN's Fareed Zakaria on Friday that while Putin could turn to nuclear weapons, there is no indication he is heading in that direction at this time. There are no checks on Mr. Putin. Just as he made the irresponsible decision to invade Ukraine, he could make another decision. But I don't see anything right now that would lead me to believe that he has made such a decision, Austin said.
Again, America is fully prepared with our NATO allies to defend every single inch of NATO territory. Every single inch. So, Mr. Putin, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. Every inch.